Hello and welcome from Aotearoa, New Zealand. My name is Simon Shadabor. I am the Chief Visionary Officer and founder of realityvirtual.co. When it came to see VR kicking in, a renaissance you could say, I was very excited, jumped in the early days of DK1. Coming from a limited background, it became very clear to me that Unreal Engine was the engine of choice. Its ease of use, just to pick it up, was quite phenomenal. And this has been the case for many, many years. It's really held an advantage in its graphic fidelity and its ease of use. But underneath the hood, there's a huge amount of power tool potential. Through blueprints and C++, it has really taught me over the years of what we are quite capable of doing. Graphic fidelity, lighting, level design, spatial audio, texture streaming. These are all remarkable things to have immediate access to, and the model behind it just works so well. The ease of use, but just the accessibility of Unreal Engine has really aided me substantially. I've never found an issue with deferred engine rendering as well. I find deferred engine rendering, when optimized well and effectively with good LED components, you can get a lot more out of it. Post-processing really allows so much more than what you might get from a forward renderer. It goes against the grain to common belief, but as these systems have got more powerful and as these headsets have got higher resolution, the limitations that are seen from a deferred renderer have not really been the case at all whatsoever. I can see the benefit of standalone headsets, though as a power user I must stress that I am very much a fan of PC-based VR at this current stage. Though mobile is definitely catching up and making huge strides in performance and whatnot, there's something to be said about having that level of grunt that you can get from a desktop engine, especially when you're dealing with such high resolutions and such high field of views. Though I do follow the Tesla model here. I do believe in building the high-end product first and then having it trickle down from that point as technology progresses. As someone who got to test an early beta some years back at GTC, I have to say I was just quite frankly amazed. I was fortunate enough to test out Nefertari, one of our VR experiences in the device on location. The field of view was the first thing that really got me. And for me personally, to see something like Nefertari shone on a device of such high fidelity really just blew my own mind. And I've spent a lot of time in VR, but to actually experience my own works in a product of such high fidelity was quite frankly amazing. And since then, I've seen nothing but improvement. We need to be seeking the zenith when it comes to VR. We really need to be showing our best hand. Next generation headsets really, in my opinion, need to emphasize on such techniques as photorealistic rendering, eye tracking, obviously. This is going to aid us extensively to get a lot of these experiences running with much better performance, which then allows us, quite frankly, to actually throw on more bells and whistles. Obviously, ease of use, comfort, limiting as many cables as possible. It's quite clear where we need to go. One of the things I'm really excited about is actually getting HDR into VR. I want to have to squint when I'm in my experiences. When I'm looking at the sun, I really want to have to close my eyes. It's extremely important to get that high dynamic range into these headsets. So when the next generation of OLED or micro LED comes to play, that lighting is everything. Lighting is so important in this realm. In many cases, more important than detail. It's the human trigger. It's really feeling like you're jumping in from the real world. I mean, right now while I'm doing the shoot, the lighting around me is quite bright, so I'm having to squint. I would like to have that experience in virtual reality, ironically. So realityvirtual.co is probably best known for our photogrammetry and deep learning. These include many works like Nefertari, Tutankhamun Entered the Tomb, which won a Lumiere Award back in 2020, New Zealand Parliament, Large Hadron Collider, St. Matthew's Cathedral, and probably our most renowned work way back in 2016 was Mana VR, which was a cultural piece in regards to Indigenous Māori here in New Zealand. We've always emphasised encapsulating the environments with the most highest fidelity and level of detail. As a result, many of our works from way back in the day are shining only now, years later, as the hardware has actually caught up with the rest of us. We were in the business of encapsulating billions and billions and billions of points of detail almost half a decade ago. Some of the deep learning stuff that we're doing is really quite remarkable, and we plan to launch many of these tools to the greater public, and are having many discussions with many major studios in regards to this work. Deep learning and photogrammetry really merge well together, and because we had all that processing power to begin with, because of our sponsors like NVIDIA and whatnot, we've really been able to emphasize this years later. These are going to be true power tools that really allow for, concessive, massive content creation, streamlining the whole VFX process ridiculously. What I would really love to see happening soon, I've always had a very fond respect for culture, cultural preservation, encapsulation. Being stuck in New Zealand for the last 2 years, while I imagine we've all had this experience to some degree or another, I'm very excited to announce that I will be getting off the island very soon. And I'm hoping, very much hoping, that some of the skills and demonstrations that we've shown over the years, we can actually use the Lama Temple, the Palace Museum. So many pronunciations I'm not even going to attempt to do because, quite frankly, I won't give it justice. Much of the world would love to experience these locations, as would I personally. I have a vested interest. I was meant to be there in January 2020. So I'm really hoping that we can really demonstrate some locations of beauty to a far greater audience. There's a huge fascination in the culture, and people would love to learn more. So I'm really hoping that this becomes a possibility soon. I'm an evangelist for this kind of work. I've traveled to many locations that are quite frankly obscure and unique and original. And so my personal passion is really giving this to the world. As I like to say, it's very hard to find. As I like to say, it's hard to find a well-traveled bigot. And so my personal opinion of this is that the more we give to the world as a whole, the more we have a unified understanding of where we are at. And so that's a real passion thing for me.